My name's Noel Griffin. I live and work in Gourock. I'm a multidisciplinary artist. I graduated from the Glasgow School of Art in 2019 from the painting and printmaking department, and I studied on exchange at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. So I work across multiple different disciplines, including sculpture, 3D modelling, film and kind of scientific experiments. My work tries to look at the relationship between man and nature and science and ritual. I had a basic interest in making artwork, but also kind of wanted to delve into other kind of disciplines, and I felt that that was the easiest way that I could explore that. I normally begin with a kind of a large area of research. So I visit museums and archives and sometimes laboratories, and I try and get as much information as possible, and then from that information I kind of sit and kind of try to make connections between these things. So a lot of the time I'm working digitally on my computer, so I'm taking existing models and combining them with my own digital sculpting, and then I often work with 3D printing technologies to get these digital ideas into a physical space. With traditional artistic mediums and combining it with more ideas on future technology and how the future is kind of also referenced in the past, and kind of working my way back through this kind of timeline of humanity, really. So I kind of use it quite regularly, so it kind of comes at different pieces in the process. So sometimes I just want to have a sculpture that I've made digitally and just see it physically, but it might not be the finished work. I also use it in the process of producing the work, in terms of I might use it to make a mould, and then I might cast from the 3D printed sculpture, and then sometimes it is just the work in itself. And I've also used the printer as a performer in my work, so it kind of is a stand-in for a kind of human character. So I had in my degree show for the Glasgow School of Art, I had a work that revolved around Prometheus and his immortal liver. So he steals fire from the gods to give it to humans, and as punishment, an eagle is sent to peck out his liver, which grows back at the end of each day. So I had kind of a play on that, and I had a 3D printer which printed a liver each day whilst the other one decomposed, and it was this endless cycle of creation and destruction. So using a 3D printer allows me to be more self-sufficient in my practice. I'm able to produce everything here in the studio, and it's quite nice that I can be working on other things, or I can even go to sleep and wake up and I've had a new piece sitting ready for me to work on. So I think it just allows me to work by myself and not necessarily rely on my craftsmanship skills all the time. So I do have training in sculptural techniques, but it just allows me to kind of anything that I can imagine or draw on a computer can be made physical. So that's why I like using that kind of process. Normally my favourite part is kind of the happy accidents, and a lot of the time I'm working with technology and working with kind of natural materials, and it's kind of the point where it becomes unexpected or unruly, and it's as if the work kind of makes itself in a way that I would exhibit a piece and then it might change throughout the exhibition, and it's kind of unknown to me what the kind of the end product will be. If there is an end product, it just continually transforms. I wouldn't say it's a raw talent. I think that the course is more to help you think. They don't teach you how to make practically. It's something that you kind of have to discover yourself. Although I think that what the course gives you is the kind of chance to collaborate with other people, which you wouldn't necessarily be able to do as easily outside. But I don't think to be an artist you need to have an academic background. I think that nowadays, when we have kind of digital tools and tutorials that you can look at online, it's more democratic and people can have an entryway without having to study at an academic institution. I would say to begin with, just really find out what you're interested in before you go into studying. So just try out as many different processes and techniques as possible. And I would also recommend people go outside their comfort zone and maybe do things that they wouldn't expect that they would enjoy. I started in a kind of very drawing and painting based practice, because that's what is taught in school, it's what I enjoyed doing from when I was a child. And I went on to study that degree, but I ended up working more multidisciplinary, so I think that it's good to try out as many different things as possible, and then you can discover what your own interests are. I wouldn't say so. I try to use kind of everything in the work. I suppose you could kind of describe it as it's still a sculptural practice, although it's kind of an expanded sculptural practice. So I'd say it all kind of comes down to my love of kind of objects and sculpture, but in a way I'm just trying to have everything and be able to just work in so many different ways. So it might seem quite desperate, but I hope that through combining them all together I can kind of build a narrative with these things. Yeah, so this is a work that I presented for the Royal Scottish Academy's New Contemporaries exhibition, and it's inspired by the Greek myth of Deucalion and Pyrrha, which is the flood myth, similar to Noah's Ark and Christian myth. So he is a robot which I designed which works off microbial fuel cells. So I collected water from the local reservoir, and it's kind of like an emerging renewable energy, so it converts bacterial energy into electrical energy to fuel the robot's movements. So he was presented in a kind of museum-style diorama and would gradually move and kind of live and die throughout the exhibition, along with the bacteria which grew over the course of the exhibition. But it's kind of funny, it's kind of this, it doesn't really work, which is what I'm kind of interested in. It does work, but it's kind of this technology of the future. So it kind of doesn't really exist in the present, but I think it will have applications in terms of like farming and agriculture. I do really have a love of kind of ancient myths and historical narratives, but I'm kind of interested in using these things to kind of talk about today and talk about the future. And I think definitely Inverclyde does inspire me in terms of, obviously it's natural beauty, but it does have kind of quite a sinister past. It's also, my view from my studio looks onto the Holy Loch and Trident nuclear submarines, so it is kind of this idea of nature and industries kind of clashing, and I think that working here definitely that has an influence on my practice. I do have plans to be in more exhibitions. I'm part of the Society of Scottish Artists, so at the moment I'm creating work for their annual exhibition. In the future, I would also quite like to work more with film and moving image, and I think that would allow me to work with different disciplines and also explore the narrative possibilities in my work.